Live video as a marketing strategy with Christopher Small, episode 12. Are you ready to make your law firm a profit-generating machine that will free up your time and skyrocket your impact? With more than 2 decades of business growth experience and having proven that you can be successful while prioritizing your family and your impact, introducing the Profit with Law podcast. I am your host, the creator of the Firm Differentiator 10X Effect, Moshe Amsel. Well, hello and welcome to another episode of Profit with Law. My name is Moshe Amsel. I'm your host, and today we have another guest. This is a wonderful bonus episode with Christopher Small. And the title of today's episode is Live Video as a Marketing Strategy. But the reality is that we went into a bunch of topics throughout the interview, and it's a wonderful conversation. I really connected well with Christopher Small, and I'm hoping that this is going to be a relationship that continues from this particular interview. So real quick, I'll give you his bio. And Chris is the owner of building a law firm and CMS law firm. He started his first law firm 10 years ago, loved the process so much that he started teaching other law firm owners how to do the same themselves. He also owns a thriving estate planning law firm in the greater Seattle area. He's married and has 3 awesome kids. Now, before I jump into that interview, I just wanted to share with you an upcoming workshop that we have. Over the next few months, I'm going to be hosting a series of workshops. The first workshop will be the Law Firm Client Attainment Machine, how to create a machine that will produce an unending supply of new clients for your firm. If you would like to sign up for this training that will take place Monday, May 13th at 12 p.m. Eastern, head on over to profitwithlaw.com/workshop. Again, profitwithlaw.com/workshop. Now, without further ado, I'd like to go ahead and cue that interview with Chris Small. Here it is. Chris, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I am awesome, although the weather has dipped down here on the East Coast a little bit, so we're back to a little bit of chilly weather, but we're hoping to get some of that 70-degree weather back. What's it like for you over there in Seattle?
It's sunny. It's like 65. It's nice. Spring is finally coming. It's been a long winter.
It's awesome. So I go out to the West Coast occasionally, but I'm usually in Southern California. I have never made it up to Seattle, so I guess it's that and Vancouver are on my list of places to visit.
Yeah, it's gorgeous in the summertime, for sure.
All right, so I don't want to waste anybody's time with us chit-chatting. I want to jump right into this. Can you just spend a couple of minutes telling us about yourself, how you got into the practice of law, as well as starting your firm? Was it straight out of law school, or did you work first within another firm? But then you also have another business that you run, which is a law firm coaching and consulting business. Just give us a quick synopsis of how you got into each of those and bring us up to speed.
Sure. So, I'm from a small town in Kansas, went to the University of Kansas for undergrad. I was a psychology major, and as I was graduating, I had the option of going to graduate school for psychology or something else. And I was terrible at statistics, so I didn't want to do that. Law school seemed cool. It seemed, thought you could make a lot of money. I wasn't really driven by any sort of like public service or anything like that. It just seemed cool. And so I went to law school straight off of college, graduated in 2005, passed the bar, and I went and worked actually for a really small firm in a really small town. It was my first legal job. I worked there for probably about 18 months. I clerked there too when I was in law school. And that was really where I sort of caught the business of law bug. I think I was there probably 2 or 3 months when I renegotiated my salary based on the money that I brought in instead of like the hours that I worked. And I was like, wow, this is cool. You just bring people in, they just pay you. So did that for 18 months. I went to insurance defense firm and was only there for about 8 months or so. Then I was the Kansas Department of Transportation eminent domain attorney for like 18 months to 2 years or so, which brings us through hopefully about middle of 2008, end of 2008. At that time, my wife got a job up in Seattle. We were living in Lawrence, Kansas during that entire time. And we kind of made a deal. She was looking for a job. She had to go out of town. Knew I wanted to start a law firm at that time. And so I just made a deal with her wherever we go. I want to start a firm. I didn't know anybody anywhere. So didn't matter where I went. I had no connections, no contacts, nothing. But I did pick up some internet marketing chops in my downtime at the Kansas Department of Transportation. And so that's what I was going to use to get clients. So anyway, moved to Seattle. 2008, I had to take the bar exam out here. 2009, I opened my firm. It was a criminal defense and personal injury law firm. And to sort of like let the stories piggyback together, it was about that time that I started a blog about starting a law firm. And I kind of started that because I wanted to capture my thoughts and feelings when I was starting this firm to sort of look back on later. I thought it would be fun to see that and think about how stupid I was and sort of the things that I was worrying about and thinking about. And it was also I was also sort of consciously trying to create a resource for other law firm owners, because at that time, really you just had like Thunberg's How to Start a Law Firm book, that was like, go get a postage meter and some business cards. And I was like, man, this is crazy, because the internet is here and like you can do things with the internet and actually get clients fast and cheap. So that sort of thing started at that time that I opened my firm. Progress to 2015, I decided I was going to sell that firm. I sort of had somebody come and buy in with me in the meantime. So I sold the other half of that firm. And in 2016, I started an estate planning law firm with the same name, still CMS Law Firm, which is where I am today, own an estate planning firm. Got a paralegal, part-time paralegal, me as the attorney, and I have a part-time attorney that I'm just trying to fill up with work, basically to come on full-time. And then on the coaching side, as that blog sort of progressed, podcasting came into the world. I started a podcast about that. It really became a way for me to kind of just get out my ideas about business and things like that. And people started calling me for help. And I started sort of codifying what I was doing with my own firm as far as processes, procedures, marketing scripts, and all the things that I was doing. And people started paying me for it. And so that sort of has piggybacked on the firm. And that's where we are today. How's that?
Wow. What a journey.
Yeah.
That was
crazy.
Hey, look, you put 14 years into, I don't know, like 5 minutes. So
Right.
pretty good.
I've done it before, so I'm getting more and more succinct every time I tell that story.
Yeah. So you mentioned that you relocated because of your wife's job. Yep. And do you have any kids?
Yeah, I have 3 kids.
So how old is the oldest?
6.
So you started your family over in Seattle. Is that
correct?
Correct.
Yep, she was born in 2012.
Okay. So I'm a family man, and I'm interested in exploring potentially how, having kids has affected the way that you view the business and, where it's taken. But before we go there, you have interestingly created a firm, got it to a place of certain success, and sold it off, and then started a firm again. When you first started in 2009, you said that you used internet marketing. What specifically in internet marketing, which marketing tactic would you say that you used to get started? And is that still relevant today, or would you think that somebody starting today should do it differently than you did it back then?
Yep. So what I did back then was like what I would consider to be pure SEO, which is like, I'm going to tell you what I did, but I'll tell you right now that it doesn't work anymore. Okay. Because Google is advanced. There's this little update that people know called Panda that basically just wiped the whole thing out. But what I did was I would create these blog farms basically, and I would have my website would be at the top. and I would go and create a bunch of websites underneath of it, maybe 4, 5, 6 websites underneath of it. I would fill those up with content, and I would link them all up to my site. And then I would create another layer of websites underneath that, create a bunch of content, and send those links up to the level above it, which would then send it up to my website. That's really what I did. I also, though, did create a bunch of content on my top level site that, with the help of that, I call it link juice or whatever, but with the help of that link juice that I sent up, really got me a tremendous amount of exposure for DUIs, traffic tickets, things like that. So that was what I did back then. It doesn't work anymore, so I wouldn't do it. And SEO is so I have a lot of opinions on SEO, but your sort of bread and butter SEO that everybody thinks about, like typing in Seattle DUI attorney and showing up there, it's almost not worth the effort, because you've got the ads up top, and then you've got the 3-pack of the maps, and then you've got the organic results under that. So doing sort of like old school SEO and that thought pattern, I don't think it's effective. But what I do now sort of involves some SEO, which is what I would refer to as long tail SEO, which is essentially what I do is I create a lot of content. So I do a Facebook Live every day that gets made into a video, a podcast, a blog post. The transcript is created. So there's just all this content out there. But what I try to do with every one of those pieces of content is think about a question that someone is going to be asking and typing into Google. And so what ends up happening is, if you create enough of this content, eventually there actually are people that ask those questions. And that's how you're going to get that sort of that organic SEO bump, is because you'll start showing up there in those results,
Right.
So that's a little bit what I do now. I do some just like old school Google AdWords, a very, very little bit. And then I do a ton of Facebook marketing these days, sort of in a little bit of a different style, I think, than a lot of people would think about.
Right. So, and this is, we're still talking about the law firm, correct?
Yep.
Okay,
100%.
so I just want to take a step back real quick for those listeners who don't know what SEO is.
Yeah.
SEO stands for search engine optimization, and what Chris is describing is basically what happens when you go into Google and you put in a search. Google returns results to you, and the results that are at the top of the page are more likely to get clicked than the results that are further down or on page 2 or 3. If you think about it, you probably almost never click to the next page when you're searching on Google. You're always selecting the top results. And SEO is simply a terminology that says there is an engine behind it that is going to determine which is the first result that comes up, which is the second, which is the third, as an algorithm. And if you understand the algorithm, you could optimize what you're doing to try to get your stuff to the top of the page. But it's completely out of your control, other than taking the right steps and hoping it happens. So back in 2009, you were able to basically create a bunch of fictitious backlinks. Well, they were real, but they were all yours, and all of those links pointing to each other. Back then, Google felt that if a bunch of pages were pointing to a page, then the top page had merit, and therefore creating all of those backlinks, as you called it, link juice, made it that those pages appeared at the top. Google has since become a lot smarter, and now is looking at the content on the page. It's looking at what you're putting on the page. So if the page has pictures and videos as well as text, that rates it better. If it answers the question better, if it gets people click to it and then they jump back real quick, then that counts against you. There's all kinds of things, and I don't want to make this episode about SEO, but as Chris was saying, SEO it's definitely still effective in certain ways, certain areas, but it's a lot harder to use as a tactic, and certainly you can't game the system anymore.
Yeah.
So
one other thing too, to sort of dissuade people from paying for that sort of like high level SEO stuff too, is you have to also remember back in 2009, Yelp was like just a brand new thing. Avvo was a brand new thing. Justia, like all these lawyer directories that have all of this tremendous amount of content, it didn't exist back then. And so now if you actually go, and if you're curious, Google your city and what you do. So like Seattle estate planning attorney, Chicago business attorney. And what you'll see is you'll see ads, then you'll see a map, But then you're going to see Avo, Yelp, Justia, whatever all these other ones are. Those are all the people that you're competing against. Not worth it anymore with that specific strategy. It's just not worth it.
Right.
So,
actually, I host a virtual workshop that I run occasionally called the Law Firm Client Getting Machine, and my system is similar to probably similar to a lot of what you do, but the way that I teach it is that you think about that question that the client is going to be asking. Like, what is the number one question somebody asks when they phone into your firm? Like when somebody calls you cold because they found out about you, what's the first question out of their mouth? That's probably the question you want to be asking, and basically write a blog post specifically answering that question, and now pay for Google Ads to present that blog post at the top of the search for any searches related to what you do.
right.
And basically what happens is that when that shows up at the top, instead of it being an ad that's pointing to a firm or an ad that's pointing to a directory, they now have an ad that's listing a question that they're asking. They're much more likely to click on that and land on your page. And then at that point, without getting way too complicated, but Chris will know what I'm talking about, at that point, you've now pixeled them. You've now tagged them as having hit your website, and you can market to them on all different channels based on the fact that they just even hit your website. Even if they didn't take the next step with you, you can still actively chase them on the interwebs.
Right.
But one thing that you did mention is that you're using Facebook ads for estate planning. And for those who are not familiar, when Facebook advertising is different than advertising on Google. So on Google, what you're doing is you're advertising to people who are actively looking for the thing that you're offering. So there, for example, when you were a DUI attorney, somebody got arrested and now they're looking for an attorney to represent them. So they're actively searching for somebody. They have an immediate need. On Facebook, you don't have that luxury. Basically, you need to find people who may not know that they need what you have, and you have to first demonstrate to them that they have the need before they become interested in what you have to offer. So I am curious, Chris, without you giving away the keys to the fortress and sharing anything that you're not comfortable sharing, maybe you can share with the audience how your Facebook campaign is structured to rope them in, per se, and really tell people that, hey, you need an estate plan.
Right. Yeah, I'll tell you the whole thing. And I'll give you the high level stuff. So basically, you're exactly right. So people that are on Facebook, they're not really necessarily looking for an estate planning attorney, for example, but they may have estate planning type of questions on their mind. And Facebook is certainly a place where people go and sort of like hang out and just look to be grabbed by something that is interesting to them or on their mind. So step one is to really just create content about what you do. So like I said, every day I do a Facebook Live every day, and it's not really for the organic reach necessarily. Like I don't have a lot of people that show up to my live videos, but what live gives you is there's a sort of a two-pronged approach here. You're trying to do two things at once. You're trying to build brand, which includes building trust and expertise and all these things, and you're trying to get direct sales at the same time, right? So part of this does both of those things. And that's why you do them live, not edited at all, because then people get to see who you are. It sort of feels like more natural in the Facebook platform, and you just start creating all these things. Then what you do is you take some of these videos and you can pay to put them in front of sort of typically it's a very broad audience, okay? And you let that broad audience self-select themselves based on the content and their viewing of the content, because Facebook allows you to create audiences of people that have watched a certain amount of video. So to sort of break that down, you can tell Facebook, hey, if anybody watches 25% of this video, like write their name down and put them over here for later, right? That's a Facebook audience. So you spit all this content out to a cold audience. So for me, for example, I would be creating videos like, I think I just did, one video I just did, for example, is like, are trusts just for rich people? Okay. Mm-hmm. Spit that out to a cold audience. For me, it's like everybody in Seattle that's between the age of 30 and 60 and has kids. Okay.
I'm going to interrupt you for one
Yeah.
second because I
Yep.
think this is really key, and you just kind of glossed over it. So people are thinking, I'm sure that some of the people listening to this are thinking, well, let's see, one third of the entire world's population is on Facebook. So if I'm just going to go and send this video out to everybody, I'm going to get people out in Hong Kong who don't need my services. Forget Hong Kong. You're in
Right.
Seattle, you're going to hit
Yeah.
somebody in California, they're not going to be using you, right? This is a very local business. When most firms, not all firms, some firms have business across the U.S. or in multiple states, but it is you're barred in a certain state, and your practice area usually is your physical area, not your practice area, but your geographic area that you serve usually is centered around your office and within a certain mile radius.
Right.
And you kind of just said that, oh, I'm gonna send this to people in this age group in this greater Seattle area. So I just wanted to point out to the listeners that you can do in Facebook, you can do something called targeting, which allows you to target that ad to a specific subset of users within Facebook. And you could do it based on where they're geographically located as well as based on their age. And that's what Chris threw out there. So that's how he narrows down who he's sending this to. Now, just out of curiosity, greater
Yeah.
Seattle area and the age range you provided, what's the rough number of people that fall into that big umbrella?
It actually, what I do is actually I don't do the whole Seattle area. I think like a 10-mile radius of my office.
Mm-hmm.
I think for me, because I'm in a major metropolitan area, I think it's 400,000 people, maybe
Okay.
a little bit less than that. I can't remember exactly.
Yeah, I don't need exact numbers. I just
It's
wanted a
big
rough
enough.
idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, and basically it needs to be large enough for Facebook to serve your ad to them to figure out who likes it and what kind of people like it, so it can then get smarter about where it's serving your ad. Facebook advertising, the algorithm behind it is extremely
Right.
intelligent.
Yeah, and you run these for engagement. So, by the way, if you ever get into this, you listeners, you'll figure this out. You'll see what I'm talking about. But you run it as an engagement campaign. So, Facebook's algorithm is actively looking for the people that are actually sort of working with your video. To get back on track, sort of what that allows you to do is people will just scroll through, and the people that watch that video have sort of shown you implicitly by their viewing that they are interested in that topic. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And whenever I talk about this stuff, I always invite people to be more self-aware of the way that they use Facebook, sort of the next time that they use it. And they'll find that they do this. You scroll, you scroll, and then like a picture of a cat on a train or something pops up and you stop, right? Or whatever pops up. Same thing happened with these videos. So once that happens, then they are plucked out and they're put in this other audience, which I call a warm audience. And then they get thrown like just all of my videos. Okay. Basically they just get shown videos. And then when they have viewed a certain percentage of any of those videos, then at that time they're showed sort of a more traditional call me to schedule a consultation kind of an ad. Because at that point they've shown at least twice that there is some level of interest in estate planning in some way. And so it sort of makes sense for you then to sort of help them take the next step, which is to set up a time to come and talk to you.
So, couple of questions for you. So,
Yep.
are you willing to share what your monthly ad spend is on Facebook?
Yes, it's cheap.
Okay. What do you
Super cheap.
spend per month on Facebook?
So I spend, it sort of varies a little bit because it keeps building over time. But I think right now I'm only probably spending $500 a month,
Okay.
maybe $600 a month. Because you're only putting $1. It's $1 per video per day.
Right. And how many leads do you get a month specifically from this marketing initiative?
So that number is harder for me to say because I don't really track the metrics in that way necessarily. Part of the reason for that is it's just, honestly, I don't care that much because this is a holistic deal. They can come from everywhere. And what begins to happen is, so I have a URL that I use for all my videos, which is estatemeeting.com. And what begins to happen is people start to just type that URL in to go set an appointment. That URL is not just on my Facebook video. It's on YouTube. It's on a podcast. It's on my website. So to specifically track. You could do it. I just don't care.
So let me ask the question differently. Are you spending money in advertising in any other platform other than Facebook?
Not for estate planning. I spend
Okay.
some Google ads
That's all.
for probate.
Yeah, that's all I want to know for estate planning. So I want to stay on this path because I want to make a point here.
Yep.
So $500 of ad spend, and what do you think it costs you to do all the production of the repurposing of all that content?
It costs me. It's $1. So I'll run it through you. It's 15. So the host a podcast, I think I pay $20 a month to create the transcript.
Who produces all of this for you?
There's no production. It's just literally, I just zap out the audio from the Facebook Live.
Right.
So I don't edit it at all.
Okay.
None.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no production. There's very little production.
Okay.
There's this website called repurpose.io
Mm-hmm.
that will take your Facebook video and you click a button and it will extract the audio and create a file for you. It will automatically send your Facebook video over to YouTube. And so I just have a workflow that I have a VA do. So I just make the video. Cost me per month, maybe, I don't know, a couple $100.
Folks,
total.
a VA is a virtual assistant, which is an assistant that is located off-site, most likely in another country, right?
Correct. Yep.
Yeah, I use a VA as well. I have I have two assistants, one in the office and one virtual assistant. My virtual assistant works my nights because she's in the Philippines, and she's great. And it's amazing how, I pay her very well, and she's getting, $3-4 an hour for her work as a full-time employee. She costs me a fraction of what somebody here stateside costs, and she's great. And she's very happy, and she's with me for over a year and a half now. Sorry, I interrupted you with the explaining what a VA was. So back to where we were going. Forgetting the clients that are coming into a specific source. This is really the only marketing effort that you're making, right? The Google search and finding somebody local happening to find you. What quantity of new leads, not clients, but just leads, are you getting on a monthly basis from your current efforts? Just a ballpark. I don't need.
Yep. I'm like anywhere from 1 to 3 new leads a day.
Okay, so and your average billing.
Oh yeah, average client.
Per client.
It's going to be probably in the 25. It's going to be at $2,500 to $3,000.
Okay, so let's say you're getting 60 leads. You said 2,500 to what?
2,500 to 3,000.
3,000. We'll use 2,500. And can I assume that 1/3 of those leads are becoming clients?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, because what I'll tell you too is the other, to sort of piggyback off this and I'm always trying to get people to do this, but what you get with this content is you build up a significant amount of trust very, very quickly. So people come in and I've had people take selfies with me after we've done the will. They're like, I'm the YouTube guy or whatever.
Right.
Or they say, you look and sound just like you do on video. So It's like the point of all that is just that the sign up percentage, I think, is probably a little bit higher than what the average is going to be, only because people come in already having built that trust. So it really just has to become then a conversation about what are your needs and can I meet those needs?
Right.
Trust is already
Absolutely. Yeah, and that's a great point too. So, in marketing speak, somebody needs to have 8 to 10 touch points with you before they're able to become a client, like before they're willing to give you money. So this is a great way of creating all of those touch points, so that by the time that they come in for that consultation, it's an easy sell. So my point here was just to demonstrate. So let's say you get 20 clients times 2,500. So you're at $50,000 of revenue from $500 in ad spend. Now, obviously, there's sweat equity involved. So you're going live every day, which is something for, I mean, some people are just afraid to do that. Some people are afraid of the technology. Some people, so there's a lot of obstacles that you've already overcome that other people are going to struggle with. But at the end of the day, your entire marketing efforts are a live video, repurpose.io, and basically just maintaining that world. So is it safe to say you're spending an hour and a half or less per day on this effort?
Like me personally,
Mm-hmm.
I spend 5 minutes.
Is
I
that
make
how
the
long
video.
your Facebook Live is?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So it depends I mean, on average 5. So probably 4 to 10 minutes, depending on what I'm talking about.
Right.
Sometimes you get on a roll, but that's literally it. I just do the live video. I don't do anything else.
Yeah. So my point is that you're spending $500. You're spending 5 to 10 minutes a day on this. Now, maybe you spend some time up front learning the process. Maybe you spend some time putting the process in place. But now you've got this machine that's generating this $50,000 a month of new business into your firm. And it's costing you a fraction of that. And I just did. So I have the Profit with Law podcast that you're a guest on right now, and this interview is happening on April 30th. So we just released episode 10, and in episode 10, this is exactly what I spoke about: was how do you choose which marketing effort to do. And I described a matrix that I create, which is price, the amount of money that it's going to cost, and the amount of time it's going to take. And basically you create this graph where you pinpoint on the graph what all your options are going to cost, and then you kind of split that graph this way. And what's in quadrant 1 in the bottom left is the least time and the least money, and anything that falls in quadrant 1 should be the first thing that you do when you're choosing. And this could be anything. It doesn't have to be marketing. But I, specifically when I do my training for the law firm client getting machine, I teach exactly that this system that you just described, which is different than the system that I teach on that workshop, but it uses the same tools. It can have massive results with very small spend and a limited input of time. And I think that's really important for the listeners to take away from this episode. And I'm sure that we'll deep dive into these details even more. And I'm sure that you have your own content on your law firm coaching and consulting business where you demonstrate how to do this as well. So that's really cool and really great to understand. And it's interesting because I talk to so many attorneys, and I would say that not one of them is running their marketing and promotions and how they bring in new clients exactly the same.
Right.
And they all work. Like there are law firms that all they do is TV commercials.
Yep.
And that works, but it takes a tremendous amount of money, tremendous amount of time.
Right.
The payoff will be there, but you need to have the runway for that payoff to happen. And it's very hard for small firms to succeed in, with that marketing method. But this is something that's really simple and really easy that anybody can do.
Yeah. And real quick, it's funny that you mentioned that, because one of the things that one of the reasons why Facebook is so great right now is because it's so cheap. So I am getting people. So think about if you're going to run commercials, which is sort of, it's not exactly the same thing as you're doing on Facebook, but in some ways it is. I'm getting 100% video views. So of a 4 to 8 minute video for like 75 cents a piece. So if you are, and they're watching the whole thing. So, and I have the ability to follow up with them right after that, with like a specific call to action.
Right.
So if you are advertising on TV and you're paying, I don't know, 100x that maybe at least, with no ability to follow up, no ability to know who's actually watching your stuff. It would behoove you, I think, to try to learn this platform and maybe not just move everything over, but sort of understand and see that this is a platform that can do the same thing that you're doing there, but just so much cheaper, And if you get in now, you're in before anybody else gets in.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. There's so few attorneys taking advantage of this, and the problem, what I think the problem is. I think the problem is that There's two problems. Problem number one is that a lot of attorneys just think that they don't have the time to try something new. So right away they're like, okay, I can't do this myself. And in a way, I don't advocate for you to do everything yourself. I think that Chris, you're an anomaly. You learned everything yourself, and I'm sure you're operating your own Facebook ads account, kind of like I do for my business. But the average law firm owner out there, I don't think that's a good use of your time. I think that understanding how the system works and then finding the right company that can take exactly what you want them to do and put it into action without you needing to learn how to manage a Facebook ads account and how to create the web pages necessary and basically create what's in the online world is called a funnel. You don't have to learn how to do all of that. You just have to understand that the concept is there and then interview a bunch of vendors and find one that's going to work. So problem number one is just basically really just feeling like, okay, I could do this. And then the second problem is that law firm owners are being marketed to the most by marketing agencies. Like personally, for my own marketing campaigns on LinkedIn, business to business between me and law firm owners, there are so many times that in my initial connection message that I send to them, which has nothing to do with marketing, and I basically am offering to help them and how can I be of service to you and what can I do for you, and I give them some examples of ways that I can help them, which has nothing to do with marketing. So many times I get a response saying, I'm not interested in marketing services. Thank you very much. It's almost like law firm owners have been taught by the marketing industry to push this stuff away because they're just getting bombarded with it. So here's an opportunity for you to just listen carefully and say, okay, there are systems that work. There are people that are doing it effectively and making it happen. Now I just need to figure out what is the system that I need to implement and who is the right vendor to align myself with. And I think there's a big difference between seeking a vendor and letting them come and knock your door down. And, right. So go out there and find somebody who can implement this for you rather than trying to figure out how to do it yourself. If you're a DIY guy like Chris and like myself, if that gives you pleasure and enjoyment, then go figure it out.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, I think there's another, when it comes to this specific thing that I'm talking about too, there's another really, really big element involved that is where I spend a lot of my time when I'm working with other law firm owners. And that is just fear over doing the thing, and then fear over being judged for doing the thing by your peers mostly. So what I always ask people is like, look, are you interested in getting new clients? Are you interested in building your business? If the answer is yes, then at some point you're going to have to just get over yourself and try this stuff out, because we were talking about this before we got on, but I did that. I did a workshop about a month ago actually now. Mm-hmm. And I had everybody in the workshop do a live video right there. Mm-hmm. Two of the people had new clients before we were done with the day that reached out to them off that video that they made, But it's like, all you got to do is just make the video. Stop worrying about all this other outside stuff and just do the thing, Way less people are looking at it than you think, and way less people care about how you look than you think, So
yeah, it's so true, and the reality is that I actually heard on a podcast yesterday somebody was saying that they were talking about how when you run ads on Facebook that people comment, and a lot of the comments can be negative and could be like almost like in your face, putting you down. And they were talking about how do you deal with that. And the person, the interviewee on the podcast was great, and he basically said, and I'll actually link up to this. So this is Mind Your Business by James Wedmore is the name of the podcast, and it was the most recent episode released on April 29th. I don't have the episode number in front of me. But it was Colin Boyd who was being interviewed, and what he said is that the people who are commenting on the video are spectators. They're not even in the ring. They're not in the fight. The people that you want are the ones who are going to step into the ring. The people who are sitting there commenting on the video are just they're just commenters. That's all they do. They go on Facebook and they comment, and they have a purpose, but they're never going to be your client. It's the people who are not commenting that are consuming your stuff quietly in the background and eating up everything that you have to offer them. Those are the ones that are going to end up being your clients. So it's almost like the fear of what people think. Everybody who has an opinion are not the people that you want anyway, and they're gonna see your stuff. If it's not live stuff, they're gonna see your ads. They're gonna see they're gonna see you in networking events. It doesn't matter, like
Right.
what their opinion is really has no effect on anything that you're doing, and they're not even in your ring. So
Yeah.
I thought that was a great way of looking at it too.
Yep. 100%. Couldn't agree more.
All right, so I think this was a great conversation on marketing, and I hope that it was helpful to people. I want to switch gears to the coaching business and consulting business that you have. So first of all, you have two podcasts for law firm owners, and one of them, as I understand, is a show kind of like mine where you're putting out regular content, specifically trying to help them with a specific topic and planned and so on. And then the other one is just repurposing your regular live videos for law firm owners. So one is called the Perfect Law Firm podcast,
Yep.
and that's the one that's repurposing your live videos and putting them
Yep.
into audio format, which I think is great because some people just don't have the time to watch a live video, but they'll listen to podcasts. Like I listen to podcasts when I'm walking the dogs, when I'm driving, when I'm working out, in the shower. So I mean, I listen to podcasts anytime that I am not productively doing something that's occupying my brain. I'll listen to that information. So repurposing the live videos is great because it gives people who want to hear what you have to say an opportunity. And then you have the Building a Law Firm podcast, which is your regular scheduled content. So tell us a little bit more about what you do there. You kind of mentioned how you got into it, and even before you answer my question. So I'm sure you're familiar with Pat Flynn. He calls himself the crash test dummy of the internet, and you kind of got started the same way he did. So he was studying for some exam, the lead exam for architects, and he basically put all of his notes when he was studying onto a website, kind of like writing his own journal. He had he didn't even know what he was doing, let alone having an intention to do anything with it. But ultimately, at the end, when he got laid off from the architect firm that he was at, he realized that there was this huge amount of visitors who were coming and reading his notes. And then he turned that into an ebook and started selling it. And that's how he got started on the internet. And now he runs a multi-million-dollar business online and has one of the top rated podcasts on iTunes. So I when you were telling me your story, I was like, oh, this is like the Pat Flynn of the legal industry, which is kind of cool place to be, where you kind of like documented your journey on your blog, and that just attracted people, and you said, hey, I've got something here. So tell us a little bit more about that and what you have to offer there.
Yeah. So it's like I sort of said at the very beginning, it kind of just grew out of I really love the business of owning and running a law firm. And I also really sort of have embraced the idea of creating a business that does for me everything that I want it to do. Right? Work the amount of hours that I want to work, make the amount of money that I want to make, work on the type of projects that I want to work on. And I think a lot of law firm owners over time in particular sort of lose that spark. They lose the idea that this stuff can even happen. And so what I have done is created and sort of, like I said, codified all of my stuff together there's sort of three different ways that people can interact with me. One is I've created this I guess group called The Back Room. The Back Room it's a monthly membership. It's actually gone up now because I am including the recordings of the quarterly workshops from the past and all of the quarterly workshops into the future. And so you get that, and then you get I do a weekly Facebook sort of it is a live Facebook, but it's more like a I do a little bit of training in all Q&A, right? So people just hop in, we just talk. And I talk a lot of times about what I'm working on or what I've experienced in my firm for that week. And then people ask questions and we just kind of go from there. And then I've also got something that is relatively new, actually, and it's called the system. The system is sort of all of this stuff put together into like an intensive 8-week course, right?
Mm-hmm.
You get one-on-one with me twice a month, and then you get the Facebook Live stuff. But it's really sort of like my system from start to finish. So you come in, it's all my scripts, all my processes, all my Asana workflows, all of my marketing stuff, everything, right? The whole deal. And so there's that. And then sort of the next step, or sometimes a continuation of that system, is something that I call the syndicate, which is sort of just a continued sort of one-on-one relationship, which is, there's a lot of accountability built in there, goal setting, really being able to, because there's a difference between being a backroom member and seeing the stuff and implementing it, and having someone in front of your own specific firm and just saying like, like, you're missing this one thing right here. If you just did this one thing, you can make, how this goes, right?
Right.
Sometimes it's just little tiny things, but they make a big difference in what people are doing. And so that's basically what it is, but my ultimate goal is the same reason I do estate planning. It's because I have a family and it's something that I actually like to do and that is helpful, and the same with this building a law firm stuff is, it's like law firm owners need a break. They need someone that is reliable and that it knows what they're doing and is like in the trenches with them. And so not to say that there aren't other good programs out there, because there definitely are, but I wanted to try to create something where I was really doing my best to give people a chance to sort of do what they want to do,
Right. Yeah, and it sounds great. And I just to talk about one-on-one coaching and help in that regard. I myself have a coach. And I don't know if you do or not, but
I do. Sure.
I myself have a coach, and I'm part of a coaching program, and I pay a lot more than I charge my clients for coaching, because I need to be coached at a higher level than I'm providing for my clients, because the further you get in the process, the more you learn to play games on yourself and just kind of like bury what's really happening, what's really stopping you from doing the next thing. And ultimately, at the end of the day, it's all mindset.
Right.
So we all know what we need to do. If we dangled the right carrot in front of you, you would figure out how to resolve the problem that you're faced with. The problem is that we get in our own way, and we provide all of these facades and all of these fears and all of these stories that we tell ourselves. And you really just need somebody from the outside looking in to say, hey, you got to get out of your own way, and here's what you need to do, and just go out there and do it. And that's really what a mentor or a coach will provide to you. So I definitely know that there's value. I mean, I offer it myself. And then people wonder, like, how come I'm having somebody like you who competes with me on the podcast? And this is important too, is there is no competition out there. Like, if you're an estate planning attorney and you're in the Seattle area, Chris Small is not your competition. What's going to happen is that there are people who resonate with him. There are people who are going to look at him and say, I like this guy, and I think that he knows what he's talking about. I think that he can do what I need him to do. I'm going to use him. And then you can be doing the exact same marketing efforts that he's doing. You could be creating the same exact videos. It doesn't matter. You're going to resonate with other people. It's your audiences are never going to be the same. There'll be overlap, but they're not going to be, depending on what it is. If they could be a customer of both, they might be a customer of both. But you're not competing with each other. And I firmly believe that, and that's why I think that it's so valuable to bring somebody like Chris on to the podcast to share his knowledge and his views. And I encourage everybody to go check out his podcast, watch his live videos, because if you resonate with him, if what he's saying makes sense to you, then jump into his back room, jump into his system, or even down the road to go into I forgot the name of the last one,
Syndicate.
the syndicate, but there's definitely a lot of options out there when it comes to getting somebody to hold your hand and take you on this journey. And you have to choose the one that's a good fit for you, that you feel comfortable with. But if you're stuck, if you're trying to grow your firm and you're not getting there, then it's time to start resolving that problem, and put some money behind it and get the right mentor and have somebody hold your hand and take you on that journey.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to go faster, you have to pay for it. It's just like if you want more clients, you should spend some money on advertising, because that's just how it goes. And I can tell you, for me personally, this is a lesson that took me a long time to learn. When I first opened my firm, I didn't do any paid advertising. I didn't think it was stupid. I had some mental problems with just spending money in general, and sort of a scarcity mindset that revolves around that. But I've come to learn over time, and I'll say this too about sort of joining these groups and doing these things, is it's a lot of times it's the actual strategy and the instruction that you get that helps you, but it's also just being around other law firm owners that are doing the same thing, and being around other people whose first reaction when you have an idea or when you want to try something is go for it. You can do it. It can happen. Try it. I mean, because in your real life, if you go tell your spouse that you're going to go start making live videos on Facebook every day, their first reaction is going to be, oh my God, that's so embarrassing. I would be so afraid to do that. What are people going to think? What if you mess up? Right? Even a lot of your other attorney friends are going to say the same thing. So to be around one person or a group of people that are going to support you and lift you up and push you to get out of your comfort zone and do these new things, often that alone is worth sort of the price of admission. And that's one of the reasons why I pay my sort of my coaches to do the things that I do, is because every once in a while we all get together and hang out. And sometimes one of the nuggets that gets dropped by somebody else that's in the group is enough to pay for my entire sort of coaching for a year, because it doesn't take that much. And the last thing I'll say too is, as you're thinking, if you are considering hiring somebody, whether it's me or anybody else, a lot of people will focus on the price and not the return on what that investment can give you, because what's great about being a law firm owner is that typically if you get one new client, you're doing pretty good, and you're probably going to pay back the investment that you've made in that person or that program relatively quickly. So it's often more easy to make that choice in what we do because the returns are so high. You're paying, let's say, my back room to come in is $200 a month. Okay. But if you get one new client, if you come in and learn one thing and get one new client at $2,000, you've just paid for 10 months of being in there. And what's great about the things that you're teaching, that I'm teaching, is that these things aren't one-off lessons, right? If you use this stuff to get one client, guess what? You can get another one and another one and another one. So, I just think coaching is just so important. Literally, no matter who you use, it's so important to try to find someone that can look at your business and give you some insight and some direction. If you're not doing it, you are going to be passed at some point by someone that does. I mean, that's just, may not be today or tomorrow, but it's going to happen, So sorry about that. That was a little bit of a rant.
No, that was great. It was
so important.
Yeah, it's true. It's very important, and it was very well said. And I just want to go back onto the community thing for a moment. And that is that if you have access to a community of like-minded law firm owners, so people who are interested in growing and they want to have effective change in their future, what's going to happen is that you'll start to see what other people are doing, and that'll give you new ideas. It'll spark new inspiration and take you in directions that you might have never thought of going on your own. So it's not just about the coach that you're getting involved with. It's also, exposure to the community that they serve, which if you're attracted to it, then the people who are attracted to it are going to be like-minded people. It's an automatic, A plus B and B equals B plus C, A equals C. That's just going to happen. So that's really cool. I do want to ask you another question, and we're almost ready to close. But do you have an opinion about how much time a law firm owner has to put into their business in order to be successful? I have an opinion myself, but I'm curious to know how you would respond to this. So basically, a lot of firm owners are saying, I want to grow, but I'm working 60-hour weeks or I'm working 70-hour weeks already, and they kind of feel like if I go from 200,000 to a million, that's going to mean that I have to go from 60 hours to 100 hours a week, and I just can't do that. How would you explain this time phenomenon when it comes to how much time should somebody be putting into the firm?
Right. Okay. So I've definitely have thoughts on this. The first thing I'll say is that I probably work, I literally probably work 25 hours a week in my law firm, right? Because I do this building a law firm stuff. We're doing a podcast right now. I have Tuesdays and Fridays blocked off where I don't do any meetings or do anything. So Mondays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays are the only time I do any sort of appointments and things like that. So it's possible. Is that number one? I think the biggest barrier to this time commitment thing that we're talking about is law firm owners and lawyers in general coming to grips with the fact that what they do is not particularly special, that somebody else can do some of the stuff that they're doing, and that it's okay to recognize and understand that they are doing the same thing over and over and over and over again, and that they don't have to spend the same time on it every single time. That's one of the reasons that I can work the amount that I do, is that all of my stuff is process driven, right? So we're doing the same things over and over and over again for the most part, and all those things are laid out. So when a new client comes in, we already know this is first, second, third, fourth. It's all outsourced. It's all line items down. So there's that. The other thing, it sort of piggybacks along with this, is that attorneys, I think, often have this idea that if they're not telling everybody how busy they are and how much they're working, that they're not effective, and that they don't deserve the money that they're making. So they sort of create these stories in these lives, revolved around what their peers think of them,
Right.
And so there's that part of it too. And then, at the end of the day, it just really has to boil down to you deciding what you want to do, right? And then just making it happen. So there's one other piece of this puzzle that a lot of people are going to probably saying right now in their heads. And that is, yeah, but I have to bill by the hour. So if I want to make more money, I have to bill more hours. And my answer to that is, for the most part, stop billing by the hour.
Yeah, absolutely.
So and in a way, if you're not going to stop billing by the hour, that's where you 100% need to get some more people in that you can just bill them by the hour, and then you can just do whatever you want. So I don't know if that sort of fully answers your question.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So Chris made so many, and just like what was 3 minutes answering that question, so many points that I hope you were listening and paying attention to what he was saying. First of all, look at the way that you're pricing. Do packages, create a deliverable and put a price on it, and stop billing by the hour. And that is a way to actually make more money, not less money. So don't think of it as, I'm going to, normally it takes me 10 hours, so I'm going to charge, and I charge, $500 an hour, so I'm going to charge $5,000 for it. No, you're going to charge $6,000 for it or $7,500 for it. But the client now knows that this is the finite amount I'm going to spend. It's no longer an open-ended X amount per hour that they have to now worry every minute. Okay, what's it going to cost me? He's spending there. I'm on the phone with him for 10 minutes. I got to hang up. Like that. That's the position you're putting your client into. I'll charge more. Go ahead.
I got to cut you off real quick. Let me cut you off real quick because I don't want to forget this. The other thing that you get with flat fee billing that is a huge game changer is whenever people sign up with me, they pay me everything right then and there. So I don't have to actually do the work, then invoice it, and then wait another 30 days to get paid. So all of my cash is coming up front, which means I can then use that to generate more business on the back end over and over and over again. It also means you're never really sort of, a hostage to your accounts receivable, So I didn't mean to cut you off. I just didn't.
Of course. There's so many reasons to go to what we call package pricing or value-based pricing and get away from hourly billing. Another thing is that once you have that package price, your job is now to figure out how to get that same deliverable completed in as little time and as little work as possible to now capitalize even more on the profitability of that package. And that's when the real work happens, where you can start to figure out, what can I automate? One of the things that I've learned in the coaching organization I'm in is go through the DAD process with everything. Delete, automate, delegate. Every item on the list, look at it and say, can I delete this? Is it even necessary? If it's not, let's take it off out of the process. Can I automate this? Is there a tool out there that will make this happen automatically? So in the example of estate planning, can I create boilerplate templates for everything that we do, so it's kind of plug and play, and then we're just tweaking a couple of details in every single one. And now if I could find a tool that will, even Microsoft Word can do it, where you can do a mail merge kind of thing, where everything that's a variable is already a field that can be tweaked, or maybe there's software that does it, but you can create a process where it even further gets automated. There's less manual work in creating it. And then finally, can I delegate it? Can I give this to a virtual assistant to do? Can I give it to a local assistant to do? Can I give it to a paralegal? If it's not something I give to an assistant, can I give it to a paralegal? If it's not something I give to a paralegal, can I give it to an associate attorney, a junior attorney that costs less than me, less than my time? And a lot of people listening to this are going to be like, yeah, that delegation sounds great, but I don't have the people. And this is the one piece, because you answered all the points, but the one piece that I think was missing in your answer, and I'm sure you're going to agree with what I'm about to say, is you need to create space for that money to come in. People look at it and they're like, I can't hire somebody because I'm only bringing in enough money to pay me, and therefore my money is going to be going to them. And it's which came first, the chicken or the egg. You have to hire the person in order to create the room for additional work to come into your firm. Because when you're full, when you feel taxed and overwhelmed, you're not going to make efforts to bring in more business. The moment that you hire somebody and you're able to start delegating stuff to that person and clear some things off of your plate, you now have to pay them and you have to pay yourself. It's going to create urgency for you to bring that business in, and it's going to also create the time and the space necessary to create more business. So you have to kind of go out on a limb and trust that as long as I do it right by bringing in additional personnel, it's going to alleviate that process. And then the last thing is that as a firm owner, I think that you have to kind of start changing how you view yourself in the firm. So up until now, you needed to do everything, and you were the worker bee for your law firm. Think of, let's say you own shares in Apple, right? You bear the fruits of the labor of the company because the stock value goes up, and you also collect a dividend on the profits that are being generated. Now, obviously, with one share, it's very little, but if you owned 25% of Apple, you'd be making a lot of money just from owning the company and not doing anything, never lifting a finger. That is what an owner looks like. An owner, a simple owner of something, collects the benefits of that asset without doing anything to the asset. Now, switch gears and look at your firm and say, okay, I'm a worker in the firm, but I am also the owner of the firm. Now, how do I position myself so that I am primarily the owner and not primarily the worker? And that's where, if you look at it that way, then you can start to look and say, okay, how big does my staff need to be where I am doing zero work and I'm collecting the amount of income I'm collecting today? And that should be the trajectory that you're on to try to get to that point, which is basically if I could bring home, $100,000 of income to myself from the work that I'm doing, then if I bring in an associate, in theory, I should be able to bring home the difference between their salary and what I'm taking home. So now I'll multiply that times 3 associates, and all of a sudden we're probably back at where we started. It probably cost me $60,000 to bring somebody in. I netted $40,000 because I'm still earning the same amount off of them. And now if I have 3 associates, all of them busy, it's sitting in the same position with doing no work. So I feel like the real answer is that to get out of doing all of this yourself, you have to bring on help and you have to do it. And that's, the growth journey of the firm. So key points, pricing and how you're pricing your service, how you're packaging it, and the other. I didn't write down the other points that you made, but they were all great. Fill me in on the summary.
Yeah, process, right?
Right.
Creating processes and systems
Correct.
around what you're doing all the time, getting over the fact that you have to be the only one that does the work.
Right.
And
Getting out of
what
your
I
own
guess,
way.
yep, I want to say one thing though, I guess, in closing about this topic, and that is that, yes, you can create a law firm where you don't have to work that much, but there's going to be a season in your life when you are working your brains out. Okay. And it's easy and hard all at the same time. So if you're going to go into your law firm with the idea that you're just not going to do any work and it's all just going to happen, then you are wrong. You're going to have to do a lot of stuff on your own at the beginning. If you want to go faster, you're going to have to work more. So if you're doing it right, though, and the people that I think find themselves to be in a successful place find either a motivation to get them to do that work, or they somehow find a way to make the work fun, because it can be fun, and it's not always fun, but it can be a good experience, and you can enjoy coming to work every day. But it does take work. Like it doesn't just happen. If it did, then everybody would be out there. They would be successful. They wouldn't need anything. So, you need to work with the understanding that you can get to that place. You have to implement those systems and do that sort of mental work to get there. And it definitely is possible, and you can do it fast, but there will also be a season when you are working your brains out. When I started my first firm, I did it. I was working all the time. I was doing all this blog stuff. And then when I started this last firm, I was working all the time too, because that's just what it takes, right? There's some creation of this thing that takes some time. So,
right. I kind of try to equate the analogy to the life cycle of a child. And, so when a baby's first born, you have to do everything for the baby. You have to feed it. You have to make sure it sleeps. And you basically have to hold it all the time. Like, it is extremely time consuming to have a child who's a newborn, and then an infant, a toddler. There's still a lot of hands on. You're really busy with them. But then you get to the stage where they're 6, 7, 8, and they suddenly are more self-sufficient. They're playing with friends. And, you're now free to do other things again. When you're creating a business, you're raising a child. That's basically what you're doing. And you got to take it through that infant stage, you got to go through those stages with the business. And at the beginning, it's going to be all you. It's going to be all hands on deck. But I also want to make a point, which I'm very passionate about. And that is that there are people out there who say that you have to hustle hard in order to reap the rewards later. And I don't think that's what you're saying, Chris. But I firmly believe, and I set out to do this when I started my own accounting firm, and I left my corporate job. I set out with the mission of not sacrificing my time with my family in order to achieve success. And I said, you know what? I am going to find a way to do it, and I do. I start work after the kids are off to daycare. I have kids on two ends of the spectrum. So I have teenagers, one's in college and 2 are in high school. And then I've got 2 babies. So I've got, 2 of them are going to daycare. So I don't start my day till 9:30, and come 5 o'clock, I'm done because I have to pick them up from daycare. I'm cooking dinner. I'm hanging out with them, putting them to bed. There are times that after they're sleeping, I'll put in a little bit of work. But the weekends are also off. So by creating this reality for myself, where I said I am not going to infringe on any of my family time, no matter what. Now there are minor exceptions. I mean, like 2 or 3 times a year that I'll work on the weekend or something will happen. But all in all, I've set those boundaries. Now it forces me to figure out how to be the most productive with my time, and make sure that I'm getting what I need to get done in less time, because that's what I have available to me. So I do agree that it's hard work. Don't think it's easy. You have to get out there and hustle. You got to make it happen. But at the same time, hustle doesn't always look like more hours. Correct. It just means that you need to be smart with what you're doing. You need to spend time on the right things and make sure that you're focusing on the right things at all times and not losing eye of the ball.
Right. What's so easy, what attorneys, I think what attorneys fall into is that trap of doing the things that they like versus doing the things that they need to do, which means, for example, spending 2 hours to draft a simple will when it really should take about 30 minutes, because that prevents them from having to spend that hour and a half I don't know, networking or, making content or working on their processes or doing any of those things that are sort of like scary because they're unknown and new, and instead filling their time with the things that make them feel good, allow them to check things off the to-do list, but in reality don't actually move the ball forward at all. I've got
Right.
people in my group that work 50 hours a week and they're only signing up like one or two new clients a week. I'm like, what are you doing all week? Like how I would be playing golf 3 days a week if I was just doing that, so
Yeah,
there's that aspect of it.
these are such good points, and I hope that you guys are paying attention because there is so much time wasted. And as a matter of fact, I wrote one of my first blog post articles that I wrote for the Profit with Law brand was specifically on this topic. And there's a tool out there called the Timular, TIMEULAR.com, and it's a device. It's basically got 8 sides, and you can label each side for a task, and it allows you, basically you turn it when you're working on that task. And at the end of the day or the end of the week or the end of the month, you can export it into a spreadsheet. You can see how much time you're spending on everything. And it is eye-opening to realize what you're doing because we don't, in the moment, we don't realize it. But if you start to look at the data and analyze it, like if I hired an associate to do XYZ and they took this amount of time, I'd be talking about firing them. Like I'd be talking to them and having a heart to heart saying, I could get this done in 30 minutes. Why is it taking you so long? But now you look at you doing it and it took so long, and it's not because of a lack of skill. Like you said, it's because of procrastination, it's because of distractions. It's, instead of focusing on this thing for 30 minutes and turning everything off, well, I got a ping on my phone and it was Facebook, and now I got lost in my Facebook feed for 30 minutes. It's funny because when I started creating video for lawyers, I had a couple of lawyer friends that told me, you're wasting your time. Lawyers don't have time to watch videos. And you're probably sitting there laughing to yourself too, because we both know that everyone's out there. We're all human. We're in the same place. We're all wasting time on social media. We are all sitting there getting sucked into YouTube videos. So instead of getting sucked into something that may or may not help you, is probably useless, for the growth of your firm, if you start to figure out a system for yourself to get really focused on your time, I use a planner. I use a planner called the 90X planner, which you get really focused on what your 3 goals are, and then you narrow it down into the quarter, the week, the months, the weeks, and then the day. So every day I start with, these are the 3 things I need to get done. And I am completely focused on getting those 3 things done before I allow anything else to come onto my plate. And this way I know I've always moved forward towards those goals. If you get into habits like that, that's what's going to drive your firm forward.
Yeah. One of the things that I immediately get anyone that comes into my group to start saying is to switch out, I don't have time, to it's not a priority for me, right? Mm-hmm. Because that's really what you're saying, right? If you're saying, I don't have time to make a video, what you're basically saying is there are a bunch of other things that I think are more important than making this video. And if you start to list all those things out, what you often find are that in reality, they're not actually more important. They're not a higher priority, and you need to move them down the list, And so
right.
There's a million things you could do with your day. But like you said, finding those 3 things that you need to do every day and making, part of this too is making sure they get done no matter what, which means sometimes you do them a little bit later at night. If it's the one thing you need to get done and you couldn't get it done, you do the thing, right? You just,
right.
I did not create this quote. I don't think I heard it somewhere, but I've really adopted it in the way that I attack and approach my business, which is simply embrace the monotony of success. Right? It's showing up every day and doing the things every day that you need to do. There's not a magic formula. It's not a rocket ship. It doesn't, the unicorn's not going to come out and give you whatever you need. You just have to show up every day and just do the thing, and then show up tomorrow and do the thing, so.
Yeah. And the truth is that success is purely defined by you, right? So you define what success means. Success might mean I crossed off my 3 tasks for the day. That could be success. Success might be a dollar figure to you, or it might be an amount of time that you have free, but you control your destiny. Like that, it's completely something that a bar that you've set, and it's a bar that you can overcome and you can achieve. So, Totally. Wow, this was a really really great conversation, Chris, and I really appreciate you coming on the show. Before we drop off, do you want to provide some sort of way for people to follow up with you or find out more about you?
Sure. I mean, if you want to go check out the podcast, you already talked about it. You can just Google, I think, Building a Law Firm podcast and Perfect Law Firm podcast. But if you want to talk with me more specifically, you can always go to callwithsmall.com. And there's just some information on just talking about your firm and doing that kind of stuff if you want. But the podcasts are probably where I would go first. It's all free. I try to provide helpful information every single time. So it's a great place to go if you haven't been there.
Awesome. So, Chris, thank you so much for joining us and being so giving with your time and your knowledge. And I am sure that this is going to be a popular episode because, wow, there is so much in here to tear apart and listen to. And I hope that our listeners have been paying close attention. And if there's any questions at all, reach out to Chris directly. You can reach out to myself as well. And we're both here to serve you and help you on your journey and make you successful.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I had a great time. Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Now, wasn't that interview just absolutely amazing? What a wonderful guy. Smart, intelligent law firm owner who's doing things very strategically to continue to bring in business for his firm. And if some of these strategies are something that you want to implement, go ahead and listen to this again, take some notes, and feel free to follow Chris and get that great information from him. Now, before I say goodbye, I just wanted to remind you that I have a series of upcoming workshops. The first one is this coming Monday, May 13th at 12 p.m. Eastern. If you're listening to this after that time, the link will still be good. You can just sign up for any of the workshops that we have coming up. These are absolutely free. The only thing we need from you is your name, email address, and phone number when you register for that event. So this Monday, the Law Firm Client Attainment Machine, how to create a machine that will produce an unending supply of new clients for your firm. Being able to have a predictable flow of leads coming into your firm is crucial for your firm to be able to grow, for you to be able to hire more people, for you to be able to start to separate your role as an attorney from your role as a CEO and make more time for yourself in the day. So it all starts with being able to predict that you will have continual sales coming in to the firm, continually getting new clients. And this is a system that we have implemented and with great success, and looking forward to sharing that with you on Monday. So profitwithlaw.com/workshop. Again, profitwithlaw.com/workshop. Go over there, register, and I look forward to seeing you on the workshop. This week's episode of the Profit with Law podcast has ended, but your growth journey doesn't have to stop here. Head over to profitwithlaw.com/grow, where you can download the Firm Differentiator 10X System Toolkit entirely free. In this toolkit, I share the details of my system being used to grow firms to extreme profitability. That's profitwithlaw.com/grow. Until the next time, remember, a law practice is not for practice, it's for profit.